In this lesson, we will learn how to create this wonderful image slideshow. So you can see that the images are changing every second, and it looks like we have a slideshow of the images, and we have done this with the help of a small JavaScript application. And in this video, we'll learn how to create this wonderful slideshow with the help of JavaScript, a small application that offers a lot to learn. So let's get started. So let's start this project. We have a folder on our desktop called slideshow. If I double click on this folder, there is no other file, but there is another folder called images. If I double click on this images folder, you can see that there are multiple images: 1.jpg, 2.jpg, 3.jpg, and so on and so forth. There are 7 images. I will close this and I will drag and drop this folder onto my Visual Studio Code icon. We will use these images in a minute. I will close this get started file, and you can see that I now have this folder open, slideshow, within my Visual Studio Code. I am going to create a file outside images folder, and I will call it index.html. I press tab and I am going to type in an exclamation mark and tab again. So we have created an index.html file outside the images folder. If I double click on this folder, you can see that index.html file is visible here. It is a web file. I will double click on it, and that will open the file within the browser, and in my case it is Google Chrome. The file is empty. I am going to change the title. I will call it slideshow. I will save my file, refresh, and you'll see that the name will change here. It is now slideshow, exactly what is written here. Within my body element, I am going to create an element, an HTML element. I will say img hash symbol, and I will give it an ID of image. I press tab and I have created an image element that has no source. There is nothing within it. If I now save it, although there is an image element, but nothing will happen here because source attribute is empty. So I am going to create another tag here, a script tag, and opening a script tag and a closing a script tag, which creates a script element, and within this element I will type in my JavaScript. So first of all, I will create a variable with the help of let keyword, and I will name this variable as vImage, and I will save this element within this variable with the help of document.getElement by ID method within parentheses single quotation, and the ID of this element is image. I will copy this, Control C and Control V. We have now saved this element within this variable. I will say console.log, and I want to see the contents of this variable vImage. If I now save my file, I will save my file. I will close the Explorer. I will refresh my browser. I'm going to press F12, and you can see on line 19, this is line 19, we are console logging the contents of this variable, which is of course this image element, and we are saving this element within this variable with the help of this document.getElement by ID, and the ID of this element is image. Now that we have this element saved within a variable, we can assign an attribute of src, which is source. vImage.src is equal to, I can say within single quotation, images /1.jpg. okay, I am referencing this images folder, and within this folder there is an image called 1.jpg. I will save it, and that should display this image within the browser. As simple as that. But we do not sort of want to hard code it. We want multiple images to be displayed within this area. So I am going to create another variable with the help of let keyword, and I will call it vimg array. I am creating an array An array is created with the help of these square brackets. An array variable can hold multiple values. So the first value that I want to hold within it is images slash 1.jpg. This image is now saved at index 0 of this variable. What it means, instead of saying, let me remove this first, file, save, refresh it, and there's no image. Okay, now instead of using hard-coded text of images / 1.jpg, I am going to say vimgarr, which is the name of this variable, and at index 0 of this variable we have this image saved. I am going to save it and refresh it. Now we have achieved the same results with the help of JavaScript, with the help of this variable here. I can save multiple images. I can save multiple images within this variable. So I'm going to copy this and I will paste this here 5 times, to Control V, Control V, Control V. Okay, and this will be 2.jpg, this will be 3.jpg, this will be 4.jpg, this will be 5.jpg, and I will say one more, and that will be 6.jpg. File, save, and if I want to display this image, I can simply reference this is index 0 of this array, this is index 1. If I want to display this image, instead of saying 0, I can say 1 here, and that will display the second image, the image that has a name of 2.jpg. The images are too big, so before we go any further, I want to sort of fix that issue. So I'll go just before the closing head tag and I will say style, and this is where I'm going to type my CSS. So I will reference the image element, all the images element, img, and opening curly bracket and a closing curly bracket, and I will simply give it a width of 100 view width. I will save it and refresh my web browser, and you can see the image is much smaller, and it will grow big and smaller, and it will grow big and small as we change the size of the browser. Okay, so if I go back to image 0 here, index 0, file, save, it is a different image. If I want to reference, this is index 0, index 1, and index 2. If I want to display this image, I will reference index 2, file, save, refresh, and it is a different image now. Okay, so I will bring it back to 0 because that's where we want to start our slideshow, and I will create another variable, let n. I will call it n, and I will assign it a value of 0, and instead of saying 0 here, I can use this variable now, n. The current value of n is 0, so this image should display. File, save, refresh, and we have an image that is available at index 0 of this variable. Okay, if I want to display this image now, I will simply change the value of this to 1 because this is index 1. File, save, and refresh, we have a different image. If I want to display this image, this is index 2, 0, 1, and 2. File, save, refresh, and we have a different image here. So I will reassign this a value of 0, and we have used this value of n, and we can just give it, we can enclose this in a function. Okay, so I'll create a function because we want to change it every so many seconds. So I will say function, which is a keyword, and I will name this function as display images, an opening parenthesis and a closing parenthesis, and an opening curly bracket and a closing curly bracket, and I will close this and close all this code within the body of this this function, I will right mouse click, format document, and we have a better format. Now we also want to change this variable. So after this image has been displayed with an index of 0, I want to change the value of n to 1. So I will say n plus plus. This line of code will add 1 to whatever the value of n was. Okay, so initially the n was 0. It will become 1 after the first time function runs. It will become 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and so on. So I am going to save it, refresh it. Because we have enclosed everything within a function, nothing should be visible now, because we have to call this function, and the way we can call a function is the name of the function, display images, an opening parenthesis and a closing parenthesis. Okay, now we have created this function and we are calling this function on line 34. File, save, refresh, and now we have the image one more time. We have to find a way to change this value every so many seconds. So we have a function, a method, set interval, and opening parentheses, another set of opening parentheses, and just before this closing parentheses, a pair of curly brackets, and I will remove this curly bracket after this function. Okay, and this function, set interval method, can also take a time of 1000 milliseconds, and I will convert this into an arrow function, is equal to sign and a greater than sign, and we have an arrow function now. So we are running this function every 1000 milliseconds, which means every second, and every time this function runs, the initial value of n will be 0. It will add one more to it, so it will become 1 and 2 and 3 and so on and so forth. So I am going to save it now, refresh my browser. We have image 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and that is the last image that we have saved within our array. And the problem is that there's nothing visible now, because if I press F12, you can see that it is showing an error because the loop is still running. So I am going to say, I am going to add an if condition. So I will say if an opening parenthesis and a closing parenthesis, and an opening curly bracket and a closing curly bracket. I will say if the value of n is equal to the length of this array. So vimg.arr, which is the name of this variable, dot length. The current length of this array is 6. Okay, so if the value of n is equal to 6 in this case, what we want to do, we want to bring the value of n back to 0. So that will create a loop, a never-ending loop. If I save it and refresh my browser, we have an image 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2. So it's looping. So our slideshow is working perfectly fine as we want it to be. The only issue is that there are some images that don't have a desirable width, height. So I'll change the size of my browser, and I will go back to my style area, and I will say height to 100 VH, view height. Okay, so whatever the size of the browser is, the height and width will be adjusted 100% of the view width and 100% of the view height. Save, refresh, and if I change the size of my browser, you can see that every image is 100 VH and 100 VH and 100 PW. Okay, so that is how you can create a little slideshow with the help of JavaScript. And do we need to do anything else? Probably not. I will do one more thing. So if I now save it, stop it, and open the browser again, you will see that initially there is no image, and then the first image appears. Okay, so we want to fix that, and that is because the function takes a bit of a time to run. So we will go to the body opening body tag, and I will say on load is equal to sign, and as soon as we load the page, we want to run this function display images. So I will copy this, Control C or copy, and Control V to paste it. If I now save it, close it, open the page again, you can see that there is no gap here, and the first image loads instantaneously. Okay, and it's a looping slideshow. You can add as many images as you want in this array, and because we have used this image ving array.length, this will keep on going. Okay, for example, if I just want to remove these 3 images, select, right mouse click, cut, and save it, and there's nothing more that we need to do. If I refresh it, you will see that only 3 images will display. 1 2 3, 1 2 3. Okay, so I'll change the size of my browser one more time, and I will add those images back. Control V here. We have now 6 images. File, save, refresh, maximize the browser, and you can see that I've made a mistake somewhere, and the mistake is double comma here. Remove this comma, file, save, and refresh my browser and maximize the page, and we have a wonderful image slideshow that we created within a few minutes. I hope you'll learn something, and I will see you in the next lesson. Thank you very much.